previous testing grounds. And on top of that, the forward dodge heavy also has armor timings that match the same as sprint. So having a little bit of
I wonder if it was like a charge, but nope, just a level 1 bash.
Overly interrupted with that stuff. And after that, on top of those little changes for front dodge, headbutt, and stuff, we also have changes to headbutt itself. So the idea is that we want it to be able to pressure opponents and actually give him free damage on dodge attacks. We didn't really want to have like headbutts grant a free light because it doesn't really have like finishers or anything, so it's a bit more complicated. So the idea is that like headbutt now actually deals damage.
What?
It no longer stuns or deals stamina damage, and it doesn't pause stamina regen. So the idea is that you
my man's head deals damage now. 10 damage.
Much better. It deals a little bit of damage. It's not overly crazy, but it still helps.
I mean, it's 10, but still
get some damage in. It still leads to his heavy finisher, so it kind of works well. And on top of that, the front dodge version is 500 milliseconds, and the chain version is 500 milliseconds as well. So it now acts as an actual mix-up in chains rather than when it was before.
That is so funny.
React to it. And on side dodge,
these low just keep headbutting them when you're in revenge. Oh my gosh.
That should work quite well.
So what if you can go into
last but not least, we still have returning light attacks that are no longer have uninterruptible stance.
Yes, sir. Get it out.
That really helped reduce frustration. That was a really positive.
It's just annoying.
We had in the last testing.
Oh, he's doing a move all right.
So
I mean, you could bait it out. It wasn't
extra movement, so you can start it from further away to catch people that
even
are
further
from you, that sort of stuff. To give him better chase.
Nature's wrath all day. Oh, they didn't show it.
Attack. So same as with the forward dodge heavy, we want to make sure that that Berserker is able to really easily catch opponents that are running away. So it basically just has extra forward movement. Again, it reaches much further than it did. It's a bit closer to what the Orochi has currently. So that's typically very good.
That's fine.
It gets really difficult to run away from a Berserker in a fight. So when you get into a fight with a Berserker in a 1v1 fight, he's able to keep you locked down. And if we try to run away, he still can catch you and make sure you don't run away from him. So you have to face him.
The Nature's Wrath is a really good chase.
So Steph, what do we expect is going to end up going on with Berserker this time?
I think very much the same as before. For Berserker, you're going to be playing it roughly in the same way. But you're going to have a lot more opportunity, as you say, to run down your 1v1 opponent who's trying to leave, or in group fights, you see something happening and stuff you wouldn't be able to deal with as Berserker to stop them or last hit and kill them. But say Shaman or Nusha might be able to. Now Berserker probably is going to be able to as well. So
that's
keep
pretty
an eye
cool.
on the edges of the fight.
I'm excited for that.
And it also no longer prevents executions on bound opponents. So normally, right now on live, if you do toe stab on somebody, and then one of your allies throws out a top heavy, for example,
you can't execute.
If that top heavy would kill, your ally could not execute your opponent. So they now can. So
that's
that
pretty
also
cool.
Helps in delaying opponents, doing a little bit more efficient ganking, that sort of stuff.
Really strong.
And then last but not least, Skewer. So as you've seen from the other changes, we want to make Skewer to be his go-to ganking tool, right? It's super strong. It binds for a long time. It guarantees ally heavies. It does a bunch of things. So by giving you easier access to Skewer, we also want to make it a little bit better. So it also now just costs 12 stamina. So on top of having a little bit better stamina management, Gladiator has a bit more stam. He can throw out a lot more skewers, go into it a lot more. But the downside to that is that it dealt a little bit too much damage, especially because it had a guaranteed for dodge light at the end of Skewer. So we've taken that out. So at least it's a bit more balanced now. You should be able to land them a lot more often, but you get a bit less damage off of them.
Dang.
So that's pretty much it for Gladiator.
Wow,
Stefan,
that's awesome.
For chain heavies, the interesting thing with having infinite chain heavies is that normally they should be pretty good in group fights. Unfortunately, due to like a bunch of different things, they were not that great. So what we've done is that we've given it uninterruptible stance when you release the button. So when you play Hitokiri, you press heavy, and then Hitokiri charges for a little bit of time, and you can release. And you have variable timing. But whenever she actually starts her attack, she gains armor, so you can use it a lot more in group fights. On top of that, her attack trajectories are flatter and bigger, so she hits more people around her, and it also has a bit of extra forward movement. So on top of this, you can actually swap target heavy.
I want to see that side dodge attack.
Go and flow quite well in a group fight. It's also really useful when you're laning. That extra range and the better trajectories really help when you're in the lane. So that should really help her perform much better in that area. And then the last little thing we've given her is she now has side dodge attacks, right? So in the spirit of what we've been doing with Shigoki,
oh, look at that! That's actually pretty cool. Oh my gosh!
Weak against bashes, shouldn't
it's
really
the
be
kick
weak against bashes. Basically, the idea is that if you don't have a bash, if you don't have a way to deal with bashes, you're around you, or just throw out a light and keep going afterwards. So it still is quite good. Like you can try using it with his dodge cancels, and it's like really interesting. So that works quite well.
That's pretty exciting.
But because we've put it on dodge forward guard break, we've actually removed it from his superior blocks. And what we've done instead is to make those superior blocks a little bit like still good and actually make them quite much better. What happens is when you superior block an attack, when you dodge, if you hit light or heavy, the attack that comes out, it's still the same dodge attack that would come out before, but it becomes unblockable. It's guaranteed, in the case of sides, and it deals a little bit more damage, right? So for side dodges, it's going to deal 22. It's guaranteed, and for like side dodge light and heavy. For front dodge light, it deals 22 as well, and it's guaranteed like 99% of the time. And dodge forward heavy is guaranteed a little bit less often, depending on the recovery of the attack that you're blocking.
That's pretty cool.
But it deals 30 damage instead, so he has much better options out of those superior blocks, because those things also initiate his chain offense. It makes him a lot more viable and a lot more potent in the situations. We've also adjusted his zone attack, so it's a little bit faster to give him a bit better peel and give him better utility in chains. So it was 600, it's now 500. So that also makes it like, because of that, it can be guaranteed if you dodge for a palm, that sort of stuff. So it's much better, and that's it. Because it's undodgeable, it's close to being Warlord level good. It's like a whole 360 around him.
It's very good
for peeling. If you don't know what peeling is, I think there's a good explanation in some of the videos that we've done from Game Plan recently. That's pretty good. So yeah, so zone attack is much better in this regard. And then I think one of the most requested changes we've had for Zhanhu overall,
right finisher,
finally,
it's so weird.
Heavy finisher trajectory
it just sometimes just
from the left
doesn't
side.
hit.
So it no longer has like a slightly different angle. So you can hit
like
people
come down. It's
on
like
the left and on the right side. So that helps him also
like a sword.
So that's it for Zhanhu.
That's pretty cool. I'm down. Yeah, that's
it's like a torrent of unblockables constantly. It's pretty cool. It works quite well. That's pretty good. The next thing we're going to look at.
Can he soft feint it, or is it automatically?
So previously, before the Core Combat update,
then I'm okay with it.
It kind of made sense to have a lot of his heavies cost more stamina, because they had like what we call zone properties, right? So basically, zone properties, what that means is that your attacks don't stop when you hit somebody. So if there's somebody further out than your main target, you can still hit them. And because of that, they cost more stamina, and they didn't have extra stamina drain when you would parry them and such. So because all of these things are a bit more standardized after the Core Combat update, it didn't make any sense anymore. So all of his heavy attacks now cost a basic 12 stamina, like most of the other heavy attacks in the game. It lets him manage his stamina way easier. It gives him much better pressure, and it also makes it like a lot. You don't constantly have to go into his stance to regen your stamina all the time, so you can actually use his attacks a lot more. So that works quite well. And then next up we have forward dodge attacks. So Jiang Jun also
still kicking him in the shin.
Weird thing with that, where he could do dodge forward heavy into a soft feint kick. That didn't really work. We've tried really hard to make it so that there wasn't a single dodge timing on it. It's tough to accomplish, and it didn't really work that well. So what we've done instead is that we've given him the same kind of treatment that we've given to Shigoki and to Zhanhu, where he can now do dodge forward guard break. It gives him the same kick that he had as a soft
look how
feint.
far he kicks you.
It's hard to mess again, so it's an actual viable opener now, so he doesn't really need to go into other things, but he can actually do that, and it works quite well. It also changed to openers, like we can see in the video, so you can do dodge forward kick into light into his heavy finisher. So that also helps him quite a bit in 1v1, gives him a lot more pressure, so that's good. And so, because we put the kick straight there, dodge forward heavy is now 600 milliseconds. You can't feint it, you can't soft feint it. It's just basically a good roll catcher now. So if you wanted to do that, if you want to like approach people, if you want to do like that sort of stuff, it actually works. Before since it was so slow, even if you could feint it, they didn't really have any feeling to it. It wasn't really that good. So with those changes, it works much better. And the last thing that we've done, it's a little bit of a nerf, but I think most people are going to be happy with this because it was quite a frustrating thing we've seen.
Yeah, in Revenge, they parry you. It's like Revenge is almost
so basically,
gone.
when you would parry somebody and you hit guard break and he chokes you,
and it drains stamina pretty fast.
It used to drain stamina, and you had guaranteed damage afterwards, right? So you didn't really have a choice to make between, am I going to drain your stamina? Am I going to deal you damage? You always did that, especially on the heavy parry.
It's literally the loudest
now
sound in the
world. It no longer
guarantees
damage. So you have to make a choice when you do a heavy parry. Do I hit him with a light? Do I hit him with something else? Or do I do that choke to put them potentially out of stamina and maybe get a better punish out of it at the end? But there's an actual choice to make now, and it's just not brainless. I'm always going to choke because I can choke. So that's basically the changes to Jiang Jun. Steph, but on top of that, it makes a lot more sense just to have it on that. But don't worry too much. Those side dodge attacks that you had from front are now moved to as his side dodge attacks, right? So he can now do side dodge heavy and go into those rushing wind attacks, I think they were called. So he now actually has defense against bashes, which is one of the things where he suffered quite a bit. Similarly to Hitokiri, there's 600 milliseconds, and they also initiate his chains. So you can finally do stuff against bashes as an Aramusha. You can defend yourself quite easily with those. Works really, really well. Next up, we have something that's a little bit, that's a spicy one, but it works quite well. It's interesting. We have Ring the Bell soft feints, right? So what you can do now with Ring the Bell is that since we removed it from Blade Blockade, we still want to have it somehow, right? So what you can now do is do any of your neutral heavies and then soft feint them into Ring the Bell. So we haven't touched the speed of his neutral heavies. We know that it's been a common complaint that he should feel faster or whatever. We've decided to go this route instead because it made a lot more sense to keep the same type of timings that you had beforehand with guard break and parries and stuff, but at the same time give him really, really viable offense from neutral. They are 400 milliseconds, so they're super fast. You have to really, really decide before if you're going to dodge, what you're going to do against an Aramusha. It gives him a lot of neutral pressure, so that's super good. And the other good news is that you can also soft feint your dodge forward heavy into Ring the Bell, right? So you can typically go into a fight, hit some people, switch target, dodge forward, heavy, soft feint to Ring the Bell, hit somebody else, do all that good stuff. It's super cool. And it also, on top of that, acts a bit as his ganking tool, right? So he has access to this really, really good attack from neutral that can guarantee an ally heavy if it's timed properly. So that's super good, really, really strong, and gives him a lot of options. It gives him much, much, much better neutral pressure than just hitting lights and just going, I hope they land. And then the last big change we've done on Aramusha, and that one was a bit more controversial internally, but I think we'll see how it pans out, is that his chain flow, his infinite chain flow has changed. So if you play Aramusha right now, like you, Josh, for example, right? You know that on live, when you want to go into his infinite chain, you have to go side top, side top, side top, side top all the time. Makes you quite a bit predictable. And then we've explored a lot of different things where maybe we're gonna have those top lights be they don't get interrupted on block or whatever. But at the end of the day, what we feel is a better solution is that we've loosened those chain restrictions. So what Aramusha can do now is he can go from any single stance in his chain and chain into any other stance. So you can do left, right, left, right, left, right. You can do all that sort of stuff. And if you want to access your finishers and your deadly feints, you just have to do an attack in the same stance as you previously were. So you want to do let's say right heavy, you go into your finisher, but you can do right heavy, left heavy, right heavy, left heavy. So that works quite well. It makes you a lot less predictable, and it's super good in group fights because you can target swap and just switch your stance and not always go top. So you can use his trajectories to much better use and be able to go between opponents and do a lot of good stuff with those. So yeah, that's about it for Aramusha. There's a lot of changes there.